Sports Center.
Hello and welcome everybody back to Colonial Sports Center for the first show of the year. I'm Cam Wickline. This is my host, Casey Irwine. Casey, how we doing?
Oh, we're doing so great. I'm excited to be back, as I know you are. And I know you all are excited to tune back in for Colonial Sports Center as all the teams get back underway. Football is back, volleyball is back, both soccer teams are back, everything you could possibly want for RMU Sports, and we're bringing it to you right now. And we're going to get started right away as we look at RMU football's first matchup of the season as they traveled all the way down to Falcom Stadium in Colorado to play against Air Force in their first matchup ever. Let's see how they fared against the Air team. And you can see here, quite a crushing loss for the first game, 42-7. A few issues here and there for RMU. Quarterback injury, Chickett back into the game, 14 for 18, 99 yards, and a touchdown. You can see for Air Force, 14 rush attempts, 99 yards, 3 total touchdowns for Larrier. RMU kicks off the season, and not the best start. They could do better next time. And now, keeping with the Pigskins, we're going to send it over to Colby Sherwin to talk about RMU football's next matchup against close rivals, St. Francis. Colby, kick us off.
Joe Walton Stadium, under the lights, Saturday night. The Colonials look to end their 13-game losing streak after they fell to Air Force 42-7. To do this, they matched up against old NEC foe, St. Francis. The Red Flash returned to the Joe for the first time since 2019. They entered this bout after winning the NEC for the second time ever in 2022. When the clock hits 0 on Saturday, the winner will lead the all-time series at 8-7. When they first kicked off in 2006, the Colonials dominated with 6 straight victories over FSU. The Red Flash hit back, however, in 2012 when they won for the first time 10-3 and won 6 more times. In 2019, the Colonials ended the streak with a 20-17 victory in overtime. The Colonials look to beat their old foe, get back in the win column, and finally find that offense. It all goes down on Saturday at 6 at Joe Walton Stadium. For Colonial Sports Center, I'm Colby Sherwin.
Thank you, Colby. Be sure to stay here and come to RMU football's home opener against St. Francis. Now, we're going to send it over, where I'm going to interview Peyton Hosteller right now to ask about RMU football's first matchup against Air Force.
Thank you, Casey. RMU's first game against Air Force this weekend, as you said, it was a bit of a tough loss, but there are a couple of key takeaways from that game. So what would you like to know about that? How do we think that the team did and how they're going to perform coming up this next week?
Peyton, I got a few questions for you, but first off, just a general, what are your takeaways from their first game against Air Force?
So the Colonials, they went to Colorado expecting a great season opener. There are a couple of things that went wrong for the Colonials right off the bat. As soon as they showed up, the team realized that they were missing quite a few of their jerseys. They were afraid they might have to play in the opposing team's uniforms, but luckily, the Colonials were able to obtain their jerseys, and they were able to play in their proper red and blue colors. After discovering that portion of their uniforms, they were gone, the Colonials, they still did take a crushing loss, 42-7, from the Air Force Falcons. RMU's only touchdown came in the fourth quarter on a 1-yard pass from Anthony Chickett to Chase Jackson, while the Falcons, they grabbed an early lead with a 3-yard touchdown run by Cade Harris.
Now, hopefully they don't forget the jerseys at home on Saturday, but going on to Saturday, after watching the first game, what do you think the team needs to do and needs to improve to get their first win against St. Francis, their first win in almost 2 years in general?
So yeah, there are a lot of improvements that can be made by the RMU football team. The only way they're truly going to be able to expect a win this Saturday is if they can maintain team morale. During their matchup against Air Force, that was quite a beatdown. Wasn't the biggest confidence booster for the RMU team, but maybe their fourth quarter showing this past weekend, that might give them the confidence they need to really take on St. Francis.
Now, as we keep talking about St. Francis, who will be the difference maker for RMU on Saturday?
It's definitely going to be quarterback Anthony Chickett. His entrance late in the second quarter against Air Force, that really was the difference maker for the offensive side of the Colonials. So if he can really keep that momentum as we move into Saturday's game, that's really what's going to make the difference and potentially give RMU the fighting chance to break that 2-year losing streak.
What about Anthony Chickett really thinks sets him apart from some of the other quarterbacks now that he steps back in?
After that performance that we saw on Saturday, after our previous quarterback had that injury, a little bit of a setback, but as soon as Chickett came in, you could really see how the offense kind of turned it around. I really think that's what's going to help give the offense their lead this coming Saturday.
Thank you, Peyton, for the insight. We'll see how the team does on Saturday against St. Francis.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you guys for that insight with the football team. Now don't go anywhere as we go from the gridiron to the pitch and talk about just how great both soccer teams have been so far this year. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on CSC.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
So recently on Colonial Sports Center, we've had a tough time pronouncing names. You know, everybody just can't seem to get the flair for the names that we have here.
Supiani Melee.
Great.
Okay.
Number 2.
Neka Azibo.
Number 3.
Trinity Papamanjaris.
Okay, everybody together now. Santeri Hartikainen. Okay, let's get the easy ones out of the way. Number 1.
Rion Smythe.
Okay, Ryan Smith, you're close, okay.
Okay.
Number 2.
Luck Lynch.
Yeah, not quite, a little closer. Bring it to me.
Pete Matthews.
Pete Matthews. But hey, you're right there. Keep practicing. You're right there. All right, everybody. Last one together. You ready?
Coel Chasse.
It's Cole Chase. I think we should just, we should probably just find some new people. These guys.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Now, moving on from a lot of football talk, we're going to move on to some football talk as the women's soccer team traveled all the way down to Maryland to take on Mount St. Mary's, and as they look to continue their very strong undefeated season. Let's see how they got in. And another big win for the Colonials, 3-0 again. The Colonial women's soccer team is on fire at the moment. Taylor Day, a goal and assist on 4 shots. And Duca, their top scorer, a goal, 2 shots on goal. Marvin with another goal herself. And just dominant performances all across the country right now from the women's soccer team.
Sticking with women's soccer, we're going to head up to the NAC as the women's soccer team took on the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure. And don't worry, this time we've got some highlights for you folks. We are going to pick it up we are going to look at some volleyball highlights right now and then hopefully some soccer highlights now that we got that figured out. Well, if you guys want to know what happened in the soccer game, the Colonials went down early 2-0 in the first half. They ended up getting 2 goals by Renee Moorbacher. Just a stellar game. She had, I know it's early, believe me, I know, but if she might have had the goal of the year, we're just going to have to wait and see. But you guys will see it later at some point in the show. She ended up having 2 goals herself. The Renee Moorbacher game ended up tying the game 2-2 with the Bonnies. So the Colonials didn't necessarily win the game, but they still did come away undefeated, record still intact.
And now the men's football team plays St. Francis on Saturday, but the men's soccer team is now also playing. They just played St. Francis, and they won 3-0 against the Red Flash. McLaughlin, a goal on 2 shots. Matutha, 1 goal. St. Francis couldn't do anything, as hopefully they also do this Saturday. And both Colonial soccer teams right now undefeated, just all across the pitch for both teams. It has been absolutely incredible. Delicious passing plays, great crosses, incredible finishes. It's been everything you've wanted from both of the soccer teams. And then you have the men's soccer team, 2 wins and 2 draws. The men's soccer team has played less, and they play some more soon. So hopefully they can also continue that streak as the women's soccer team does. The women's soccer team, you've got Nduka. She hasn't started a single game, but she has 7 goals, almost over 2.5 goals per 90 minutes. That is incredible. Only 243 minutes played, and she has lit it up. And the women's soccer team continues to just beat down on opponents right now. And it's something of an unprecedented start, really, for both teams. Last year, men's soccer team was on the verge of playoffs, could not get there. Women's team a little less, but as you can see here, they have started off hot, and I mean absolutely fire, even as the summer ends. And now I'm going to send it back over to Cam Wickline as we're going to hear more about both soccer teams.
Casey, thank you for that analysis. I'm joined here by men's soccer expert Sam Dutch, but she's going to be telling us a little bit about both soccer teams. How are you doing today, Sam?
Great, Cam. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty great today, Sam.
So excited.
So, as we know, both soccer teams are undefeated up to this point. What do you make of their season so far?
I mean, I'm just very impressed, and I think if there's any way to describe these teams right now, it's just the words to prove them wrong. Because coming into the season, the Horizon League really kind of put them in a really low spot. The men were ranked 8 out of 10, women were ranked 10 out of 11, and I know it's early on, but those numbers kind of hurt right now considering they're both in first place in the Horizon League. So I'm just super impressed with these teams. They came out ready to go. I don't think they wasted any time. They really prepared these seasons ready to go. Women's making history. They've never started 4-0 since '92, since records were kept. So they're just making history. They're hot. The men with our new era of teams, there's just so many new players, and all of them came in ready to go, got acquainted with the returning guys. So they're just on a roll. Both teams, they're just the fire lit underneath them, and they're just ready to go. I love it. It's awesome.
I know soccer is a team game, but obviously you need some really good players to do what these teams are doing. So who do you think's been the MVP for both teams so far this year?
On the women's side, I know you guys were talking about her already, but Nduka is just hard not to pick. I mean, she has 7 goals just in a couple games. She's leading the Horizon League right now in goals all across the board. She's crazy. Same with shots on goals. She's also 3rd in game-winning goals, so she's just at the top of the charts all around. She's making a huge impact. Obviously, you need goals to win games, and she's delivering, and nothing short of that. She always finds a way to float that ball right in the back of the net, and she's just making lots of impact for the team. With men's side, I had a hard time picking because there are so many new players as well as returning players, and all of them are just meshing together so well. I took a look at the defense for this one because, as they say, defense wins championships, and while you have to score goals, you also have to not allow goals. So I went with the defense on this side. I know they're not up there, but I picked Tim Kozolap on defense. He had 2 assists. I looked at a couple guys in the defense. They were just super strong this year. They're like, I don't know, they just don't let balls go in the net. I know obviously you need the goalkeeper for that too, but defense is looking really good for them this year. So I wanted to highlight some underrated players you might not see on the stats for that one.
So to quote women's coach Chris Shaw from last year, after they got off to a similar start, but even though they've bested it this year, the best start in program history is nice, but we're looking for the best finish in program history. What can they do this year to make sure that they don't fall off like they did last year?
I just think they just need to keep it up. Once you're on a roll, it's hard sometimes. I know you can get down and everybody has the off games, but you just got to keep going. Men, I think, need to keep being strong on defense. If you don't allow goals, the other team can't win. It's pretty simple as that. So they just need to keep doing what they're doing, being strong, and coming back whenever you're down. The women were down 0-2 and getting 2 goals in just a couple of minutes, having those key moments where sure you might get down, but if you're able to pick it back up and get on top, that's what really matters. And same with the men, like all of them are kind of working together. There's a bunch of different goal scorers. Norris and McLaughlin have 2 goals apiece. Gilly and Koa came with game-winning goals. So it's just everybody pulling their weight, coming together and doing everything in those moments, like when you have to scramble and do the best that you can to like really get to the top. Everybody just doing their part and keeping it up. They've been doing great so far, so hopefully they can keep it up.
Sam Dutch, thank you. They're not kidding when they call you the RMU soccer expert.
Just love it so
now, back over to Casey.
Thank you both, and now stay after the commercial break as we get set up to tell you about some killer volleyball games. Stick around right after this.
What to expect when you're expecting a teenager.
Today we're talking about how to wake up your teen, and this works literally every time.
Good kisses. Good kisses. You heard her.
how
I
loud
know,
that
I
was.
heard. It wasn't you. It was the...
Is that bacon?
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again. But an awkward silence can be a great thing, like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Now, as I mentioned before the break, we're going to go right into a few games from the volleyball team as we get started for their matchup against Duquesne for the second game of the Chick-fil-A Robinson Labor Day Classic. Let's see how they did against local city rivals. And you can see here, narrow loss 3-1 in the overall match. You can see RMU won one set 26-24 overtime. The other three just could not make it up even with how close it was for Robert Morris. Abby Ryan had 24 kills, a career high, almost an entire set won by herself on top of 10 digs, but just wasn't enough. You can see Wilmot for the Dukes had 56 assists, and despite all that, RMU falls just short in their second game in this classic.
We're going to stay at the Event Center for the afternoon half of the Chick-fil-A Robinson Labor Day Classic against the Canisius Golden Griffins. We're going to pick it up in the first set as the Colonials are leading 11-6. You're going to see here a haphazard return from the Griffins leads to a setup by Caitlin Brown, and then Emma Brown goes in for the kill that the Canisius Golden Griffins really just cannot handle. Colonials up big in the first set, and they would end up taking that first set, leading by 1. Early in set 2, RMU down, but Ashley Wallen sets up Abby Ryan for just a nasty kill. Colonials would also end up taking a commanding lead in this set, going up 2-0. On to set 3, where Rosina Espinoto gets a kill to give RMU a 17-14 lead. The Colonials would eventually lose set 3, but go on a run later and win set 4, taking the match by a 3-1 score. Here we go. We're back up in set 3. The Colonials do get the point here. They would end up dropping set 3. Into set 4, RMU is leading 11-7, but Canisius with a fantastic dig here. They end up getting the point on this one. Very next play, though, the Colonials get set up for a spike. At least that is until a whoopsie daisies by Abby Brown to shock the Golden Griffins. RMU went up 12-8, and they would not relinquish the lead for the rest of the set, finishing 25-18 and taking the match 3-1. To keep the volleyball conversation up, we are going to head over to Casey with our volleyball analyst, Amir Keensley.
Now, here joining us for his first appearance on CSC, Amir Keasley, our volleyball expert, our third panelist of the night, unprecedented for us as well. Welcome, Amir, to Colonial Sports Center.
How you guys doing? My name is Amir Keasley, and I'm here to talk some volleyball.
Amir, now I know you yourself, big volleyball fan, your whole life, so I just want to ask you a few questions about how the volleyball team is doing. So first off, just in the few matches you've seen, how do you feel the team has played so far?
Despite the record, I believe that the volleyball team has played better than the record shows. For example, against Duquesne, Abby Ryan single-handedly beat them in the second set, and she showed resilience, and the team showed resilience. And I believe that is one key thing that the Colonials will be able to keep going throughout the season if they show resilience, as they should. And the attack has been very efficient and average through the first few matches, as they have a .204 percentage for the attack. And I believe that the team, as long as they show resilience, they'll be able to keep up with play in the division. and so forth.
Resilience is something very much needed for this team, especially coming off of last year where it wasn't so great. And now, just to start off with this year and for the resilience shown last year, coming into this year, who has stood out for you the most so far in this opening season?
The senior, Abby Ryan, she has been phenomenal throughout the first few matches of the year. For example, in the game against Duquesne, she scored 7 straight kills in the final set to bring the Colonials to a win in the second set. And another player that has been phenomenal was freshman Natalie Stepanovich. She's second on the team with 59 kills, 71 points, and she has 3.5 points per set. Abby Ryan has a team-leading 77 kills, 82 points, and 4.13 points per set. And that's just amazing throughout the first few games for these two staples of the team.
Yeah, Abby Ryan, the returning star for the Colonials, and plus now with more help coming in, especially after a few losses in the offseason for the Colonials. Now, all these games we've been talking about, they've just been little tournaments, called classics, and so none of it has been conference play. But once we get to the regular season conference play, how do you think this Colonials team will do?
I believe that, well, to start off, last year conference play was not too good. They were 2-16, and this year I think they'll be able to turn it around. Coach Doherty, he is instilling into his players that they got to continue to play everything out, and he seems like he is preparing the girls to take on these challenges. He said things will work themselves out over time, so that is a positive thing going into conference play. They will open up conference play September 19th versus Wright State, who is the defending champions. And we look to go there and get a W.
Yeah, well, let's see if the conference play can improve for the Colonials this season. Amir, thank you for joining us for this volleyball discussion. Cam, let's set it back over to you.
Thank you guys for that. We got volleyball done, we got soccer done, we got football done. Now it is time to wrap up the show when we get back with everybody's favorite top plays of the week. Don't go anywhere or you'll miss it here on CSC.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
So recently on Colonial Sports Center, we've had a tough time pronouncing names. Everybody just can't seem to get the flair for the names that we have here.
Supiani Melee.
Great.
Okay.
Number 2.
Neka Zibo.
Number 3.
Trinity Papamanjaris.
Okay, everybody together now. Santeri Hartikainen. Okay, let's get the easy ones out of the way. Number 1.
Rion Smythe.
Okay, Ryan Smith, you're close, okay.
Okay.
Number 2.
Luck Lynch.
Yeah, not quite, a little closer. Bring it to me.
Pete Matthews.
Pete Matthews. But hey, you're right there. Keep practicing. You're right there. All right, everybody. Last one together. You ready?
Coel Chasse.
It's Cole Chase. I think we should just, we should probably just find some new people, these guys.
Hello and welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. I know I don't want to, so there's no point in making you guys wait. Let's get right to the top 5 plays of the week. At number 5, we go back up to the North Athletic Complex for a goal I told you guys that we were going to see later. Tons of confusion from the St. Bonaventure defense results in what is ending up going to be a goal you guys aren't going to see, but it was a pretty easy tap-in goal for Renee Moorbacher, her second one of the day. Just an overall great game from her.
Yeah, what a game it was. What a goal it was. Sorry we don't have it at the moment, but, it was such a good goal, and the way it was just worked so that she could just get the tap in, it was just incredible.
Yeah, she had a pretty outstanding game. It was a fun game to watch. We're going to show you guys some fun games to watch. Let's bring up my game to watch this week. It is St. Francis versus the Colonials under the lights for the first time in, I believe, ever. The Colonials it's going to be a fun game against former NEC conference foe St. Francis. There's a little bit of hatred between these two teams, if I do say so. Cole Doyle, St. Francis's quarterback, he was extremely, extremely good last game. He won the NEC Offensive Player of the Week. The Colonials, they had a bit tougher competition. They faced FBS Air Force. Not that you're ever going into a game expecting to lose, but everyone kind of knew that was going to be a tough one for the Colonials. That being said, after starting quarterback got hurt, Anthony Chickett came in and actually had himself a pretty decent game. Went 14 for 18 with 99 yards and a touchdown. This one, there's a little bit of hatred between them. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Colonial Crazies, I know we're going to show out for a game under the lights. I mean, I just can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's a must-win game for the Colonials, and a rivalry, a night game, and a game you just gotta win. I mean, you haven't won in over 2 years if you're the Colonials. So for an environment and a matchup like this, you gotta come out 110% if you are the Colonial football
I know
team.
the Colonials have been struggling over the last couple of years, but if there's ever a game you're going to win, it's going to be a game where the crowd is juiced up, which this is going to have, where it's going to be a rivalry opponent, which this is. All the makings are there. It wouldn't even necessarily be an upset if they won. They're on their home turf. This one's going to be electric, Casey.
It's just all those things you said. It's just why you got to win. And now as we move on to my game to watch, we throw it back to this women's soccer team as they travel all the way up to Syracuse to play the Lemoyne Dolphins, the Green Dolphins, might I add. And so as we talked about earlier, Lydia Nduka, 7 goals, 17 shots, .765 shot on goal percentage this season. She has been electric for the Colonials. She is my player to watch. She hasn't even started a game. I'd just like to say that. Not a single game she has started, and yet she leads the league in goals. And for the Dolphins, Jenica Brown, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 shot on goal this season. A solid start to the year for her, but against this Colonials team who is 6 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw to start off, especially with such talent up front like they have, it's going to be very tough for the Dolphins to even get a whiff of the goal.
You know, Casey, there's something I wanted to ask you about the women's soccer team. They got off to a very hot start last year, if you remember correctly. What do you think's different about this year that's going to stop them from faltering in once they get into conference play?
I think, honestly, first off, it's just been the defensive side, honestly, because all these games, it's been only 0 goal, 1 goal. You know, it's just been so good defensively. Everyone's going to talk about the offense. That's always thinking. Almost any sport is going to be the offense gets all the excitement. And for good reason this season right now, because it has been incredible for the Colonials. But the defense just cannot be understated. And if that stays solid throughout the whole season, then that's just a solid rock wall you have back there. And that can stay up as the foundation for a playoff season for the Colonials.
The Colonials are playing great. The RMU football team is set up for something to happen that hasn't happened in a while, them winning a game. But let's see what students on campus think about RMU's opponents' logos and if they know who the Colonials are going to be facing later in this week's Comic of the Week.
Are these fake? Are these fake? These aren't real, right?
San Francisco University.
I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. I'm not even kidding.
Camelot University?
Good guess. I like the guess.
Minotaur.
Golden State Bridge.
Something Swords University. Oh, that's Penn.
Not too knowledgeable, I guess, from the people around campus, but a good try nonetheless as we wrap up here and see you